Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades. Today is Monday, September the 23rd, the year of our Lord 2023. And Pope Francis has appointed a new consultor for the Holy Office, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, also called the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. That's a new name. They keep changing the name. Something that modernists love to do, whether they're inside the church or outside the church, is change the name of offices, roles, duties. They make, under a new heading, they make them easier, the name changes, that is, to fiddle with, to mess around with. And so the Holy Office became the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith shortly after, around the time of Vatican II. Francis has changed it to Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith. Now, we still have Tucho Fernandez as the prefect, the head of the DDF or CDF or Holy Office. And he's about the most extreme revolutionary in the church. He has not been surrogated. He has not been substituted out, even with his sex book that came out shortly after he was appointed. Remember? He has a sex book sharing experiences that are basically a phobophiliac, if I'm remembering correctly. A phobophiliac sexual encounters being recorded laudably with our Lord. I mean, it's just too strange to write if you're a fiction writer. It's a clown world. So Tucho Fernandez, the renegade who has helped all of the doctrinal revolution, is still the prefect of the DDF. The new appointment as consultor to the DDF is Father Maritzio Keyote. I'm reading Edward Penton's tweet. Keyote has been appointed today a consultor to the Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith. Here's an article I wrote on Professor Keyote for NC Register in 2019. I remember Keyote. I've followed his career loosely, and it's just so clear what Francis is trying to do. It's amazing because critics of the Pope's critics, who have been really quiet lately because they just have no ground left to stand on. They're painted into a moral corner of the room. They have nowhere left to go, the Pope's splainers. They're all abandoning that corner of the room and just getting paint on their feet by dashing through the paint out of the room. They used to say that we're stretching these, the critics of the Pope. It's absurd. It's absurd. Listen to who Keyote is. This is a Penton article from the National Catholic Register, September the 13th, 2019, almost the anniversary. We're just 10 days past the 5-year anniversary of Penton. I love Ed Penton, great dude. He's a friend of mine, and I love his work. I've always loved his work over the last 11 or 12 years. Listen to what he writes 5 years ago in 10 days. New JP2 Institute professors question church orthodoxy on homosapienism and contraception. Father Maritzio Keyote and Father Pier Davide Juenzi currently teach moral theology at the University of Northern Italy in Milan and are both known for questioning of moral absolutes. The latest developments in what has increasingly become viewed as both a purge and a revolution, thank you, of the Pontifical JP2 Institute is the hiring of two moral theologians whose views on homosapienism and contraception contradict the magisterium. The new professor is Father Maritzio Keyote, who's the man who is now the consultor to the DDF, on whose biography and his CV today's show is on, and Father Pier Davide Juenzi, both moral theologians in Milan as professors, will begin teaching at the Pontifical John Paul II Theological Institute for Marriage and Family Sciences as part of its 2019-2020 curriculum announced this week. Father Keyote, whom Archbishop Paglia, who at the Pontifical Academy for Life, has appointed a member of the Pontifical Academy of Life in 2017 is to teach theology ethics of life at the Institute. We don't really care about the other priest, Father Juenzi. Let me, in a moment's time, give you the views which are subversive of Father Keyote. Before I do that, I want to take a second and urge you, please, to like this video and to subscribe to this channel if you're not. We're trying to get that sub count up to 100,000. If you want to support this channel, you do so on locals attached to this video. Look, Rules for Retrogrades is unique in the Catholic commentariat space because, as I was told this morning, I did a guest spot on a Right to Life New Mexico podcast. And wow, nobody talks like you. No one's this direct. Even Catholics, even right-wingers, because everyone's worried about growing their audience, and everyone soft pedals stuff, even the right-wing Catholics. So you know this channel has 4 pillars, and we need your support on locals. The 4 pillars are patriarchy, subsidiarity, right-wing community organizing, and of course, re-education, old education. That's what we do here for you and your wives and children. And nobody else is doing anything quite like this. It's a mashup of culture and politics inside and outside the church. And I need your help to keep the lights on. Please consider becoming a locals supporter today. You get stuff like behind the scenes, short vids on the weekends. We have a Lord of the Rings reading group that just yesterday began the 3rd book of the trilogy, Return of the King. We meet on Wednesday nights. That's for locals. A lot of people have my number and can text me on the side. That's what you do if you want to support this channel. Also, if you want to support me, donor box. Lots of folks reach out about, my life story, our eldest daughter born in Rome, expensive health insurance. So people ask about Abby. They say, how can we just support you? Not for your work. That's on timothyjgordon.com. You click donate. That's different from supporting my work through locals, books, podcasts, guest spots, things like that. Do that through locals. Finally, we are in the 3rd week. On Wednesday night, we are in the 3rd week of our One Flesh marital workshop class. Boy, that thing got packed. Just packed with married couples who want to know how, on a specific basis, to build a patriarchal home. And the textbook for the class is Leave and Cleave, our new book, my new book. I wrote it with my wife, Steph, my 5th book. You can get this on timothyjgordon.com. You can also get it on Amazon, but get it on timothyjgordon.com if you want a signed copy. You don't need the book for the class, which you can also sign up for, the One Flesh Marital Workshop on timothyjgordon.com. You don't need the book for the class or the class for the book, but they do go together, and most people get them together. Also on timothyjgordon.com, we have 2 new live classes, one taught by me, one taught by my good friend, Andrew, coming up in October. So there are going to be a full slate of classes on Retrograde Live Classical Academy because this marital workshop class will go on throughout most of the fall. And then we're adding an Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics taught by myself. Go to timothyjgordon.com for that and register today. It's $125, I believe. And then a Book of the Apocalypse because, Cardinal Burke just said we're in the final age of the world. So Mr. Andrew Orozco, who was a personal devotee of Scott Hahn, the kind of disciple to Scott Hahn, will be teaching that class. I'll be popping in and out of that one. Register for the Book of the Apocalypse taught by Mr. Orozco and Aristotle's Ethics today. Those classes start in about 2.5 weeks. So who is this Father Keyote? He gave a controversial 2017 lecture in Rome on none other than Humanae Vitae, Paul VI's document, which mostly defended the view of, life against contraception in 1967. in this speech on Humanae Vitae, Keyote used chapter 8 of Francis's exhortation Amoris Laetitia. Chapter 8 is the famous one that allows communion for the civilly divorced and remarried to receive communion, which is heresy, without going to confession or anything, without breaking up with their adulterous second union. He used that chapter 8, as I said would happen, and as Edward Penton said would happen, and Raymond Arroyo said would happen, and several moral theologians and moral philosophers in the church all said would happen back in 14, 15, 16, the beginning of the Francis pontificate, to justify contraceptive use in some cases. So that's a 2017 lecture. I think you can go find it online, where he says, look, we can do contraception based on chapter 8 of Amoris Laetitia if Amoris Laetitia's chapter 8 allows civilly remarried divorcees to, without breaking up with their concubines, their adulterous second unions, if they can keep having adulterous sex and still be regularly receiving the Eucharist, well, they can do that. Then we can justify certain cases of contraception, even though this too is heresy, heresy, heresy. This guy, Father Keyote, who gave this talk about 7 years ago in Rome, is now the consultor to the doctrinal office. So that's good. More recently, according to this Edward Penton's NCR article that I'm reading from, Keyote gave an interview to the Italian bishop's newspaper Avvenire, in which he asserted that while each Homo sapien person is called to chastity, under certain conditions and depending on circumstances, Homo sapien relationships can be the most fruitful way for SSA persons to enjoy good relations. The interview appeared to suggest, according to Penton, that Father Keyote was open to considering Homo sapien acts as objectively good, according to bioethicist Tommaso Scandrolio, writing in the Italian Catholic daily La Nuova Bussola Quotidiana. So, wow. Fathers Keyote, and together with this other priest in Penton's article, Juenzi, are 2 of 8 new lecturers. They were new, 5 years ago, to be hired by the Institute at the beginning of the fall semester of the year 4 or 5 years ago, all of them Italian, while other incumbent professors, including Polish philosophy professor Stanislav Grigiel, a close friend of JP2, have been sidelined or given their marching orders. Grigiel says he believes the Institute is being destroyed and that JP2's anthropological teaching replaced by sociological and psychological meanderings. Both Professors Keyote, the new consultor to the DDF, about which this video rails, and Juenzi are understood to be close associates of the Institute's Grand Chancellor, Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia, who heads the Pontifical Academy for Life, and effectively replace Monsignor Livio Melina, a former president of the Institute who held the Institute's now obsolete chair of fundamental moral theology, together with another replacee, moral theologian Father Jose Noriega. The removal, okay, so then it's kind of specific to, what was going on back then. But you see that according to Penton, facts, not speculation, should rule out Father Maritzio Keyote as consultor to the dicastery of the doctrine of the faith. This is, of course, if Francis wanted the Holy Office, the DDF, to do what the DDF is supposed to do, to hold the line on moral teachings and faith teachings, rather than to capitulate to the modernists and those who hate the Catholic Church on such teachings. Because he is a person who has never held the line. He is one of the assailants against the moral and the moral teachings of morals and faith. We can rightly, I don't want to say speculate, discern what the agenda is. Personnel, parish orphans and retrogrades is policy. And because personnel is policy, we know that when I saw this tweet, Father Keyote, appointed as consultor to the DDF, right in time for the October Synod on Synodality. There's been more whisperings about this long-standing issue of artificial contraception. The renegades in the church have been mad ever since Paul VI barely held the line on it in his 1967 document, Humanae Vitae. And they've been, ever since 67, 68, whenever that document came out, a lot of this is just from memory. It might be 68, actually. They've been mad. They want contraception. They want Homo sapien acts to be considered good. Remember, in the twin synods, which led to Amoris Laetitia, which was in 2016, the twin synods on the family in 14 and 15, October 14, October 15. In the first program, the first midway report, the Relatio, in October 2014, a cabal of radicals had said that they need, we in the Relatio itself, it read, we need to acknowledge the positive elements of Homo sapien relationships and acts, or something like that. The positive elements. It's like saying we need to recognize the positive elements in murder, or I don't know, pick your poison. That's not how it works. So Keyote might or might not have, I meant to double check this before I went live. Keyote might or might not have been associated with the first and second synod on the family. Sorry, I meant to check that for you. But the point is, he's been associated with Francis for a long time, and is definitely a renegade in the church. He wants contraceptive use. Remember, Francis, right 2 little months before Amoris Laetitia was published in April of 2016, in February of 2016, under the auspices of the Zika virus, Pope Francis said clearly and bluntly that use of condoms is permissible because of Zika virus. And then the Pope-splainers started Pope-splaining. This is 8 years ago, over 8 years ago, 8.5. And I called and interrupted one of the Pope-splainer shows, and Chris Albert's show, and he got Patrick Madrid on the line. They're like, what do we do? He was saying, oh, this is nothing. This is the liberal media turning Francis into who he wants. And I'm like, no, dude, you missed an hour ago. The Francis remark had happened the day before, in February 2016. You can use condoms in cases of Zika virus. The Vatican spokesman, was it Lombardi at that point? Or the American who followed him, I forget who it was, came out and clarified Francis did in fact say that contraception is okay in Zika virus, and he did in fact mean the use of condoms. This is heresy. This is an issue that is settled. Simple yes means yes, no means no issue of moral theology. It is utterly settled. You can't say otherwise. It doesn't matter how many study commissions you get, how many consultors to the DDF you get, how much you massage it. That's what they do. That's what Jesuitism, casuistry is associated with. We want to study whether or not, the principle of contradiction obtains. Does yes have to mean yes and no have to mean no? We're not saying it doesn't, but we just want to study it. And they're just investing. Francis is oodles, and the Jesuits have for 100 years, oodles of time, oodles of money on, we just want to study. We know women can't be deacons, but we want to study it, the prospect. We know human beings can't fly by flapping their arms. We get it. We just want to study it with tons of time, tons of money at our disposal. We want to study whether the principle of contradiction abides. Is there a law of gravity that accelerates at 9.8 meters per second squared, negative 9.8 meters per second squared? We want to study. Why would you study something like this? Can pigs fly? No, they cannot. So you don't study it. Jesuit casuistry means you just keep bending the concepts and studying it until you say, oh, well, we figured out a kind of way where the answer is still no, but it's kind of yes. This is what they're going to do next month in October. at the Synod on Synodality. They're probably going to do it with, I mean, I'm surprised it's this close to the start and they haven't announced that women can be deaconettes non-sacramental. To my surprise, it has not yet happened. I'm waiting for that any day. I thought it would be before the Synod on Synodality session starts. But stuff like that. They use study commissions. We're just studying the positive elements of Homo sapienism. Well, there are none. There are none in the quas human sexuality. There's always ontological good. The ontological good of even a mortally sinful act is that there's a moral agent left, who can commit it. Well, that's good. He was created, but there's nothing good qua human sexuality about Homo sapienism. And there's nothing morally good qua human sexuality about the use of contraception, artificial contraception. But there you have it. We don't need to make this a long show. Professor Keyote wrote this article for NC Register in 2019, and he means it. He hasn't had some change of heart, and he's still he's elevated by Francis in all these times in the last 5 or 6 years to all of these offices that are on all of these teachings on moral theology, particularly human sexuality. We know what Francis is. We know who his friends are. We know what he stands for. We know what he hopes to do. There are no more surprises. That's why I don't do as many shows on Pope Francis anymore. I mean, you're going to get a lot in October because I might be doing 5 shows a week in October, the way I did last October. But just wrap it up here. What, I mean, we kind of have to cover that. That's breaking news. Same as, Fox News is going to be really busy in late October, early November, and on election night. I have to do my work, and that's what I pledged to do for you guys in October. Pretty much any updates from the Synod on Synodality, I will cover them. But aside from that, the coverage on Pope Francis has been probably half of what it was, because this is a closing meditation. There's a lot that I can do and you can do and we can do, even though we can't stop a renegade pope or whatever he turns out to be, right? Heretic pope, apostate pope, renegade pope, maybe just a really, really liberal pope. I don't think it's only that. Some people say anti-pope. Whatever he turns out to be, the cardinals are going to have to decide that. They're going to have to grow a pair and call a spade a spade. But for right now, he is pope, ostensibly, and there's just not that much we can do. And this channel, Rules for Retrogrades, with the 6 books associated with it, my 5 books, and then Steph's Ask Your Husband, is really about what can we do. And that's why, that's why I appreciate your support. That's why this channel has a really, really loyal base of support that's much needed and much appreciated. And again, support us on Locals and buy our books. Enroll in the class. It's not too late. I probably won't be saying this in a week or two, but it's not too late to enroll in the One Flesh Marital Workshop. You can go on timothyjgordon.com. Recordings of the first 2 classes based on this book with 9 chapters, the 9 lessons of the course on Wednesday nights. You haven't even missed the 3rd yet. The 3rd course on the 3rd chapter is Wednesday. And when we have those 2 upcoming October live courses as well, go to timothyjgordon.com. Just stay white-pilled. Stay frosty, but stay white-pilled. There's nothing, just because we have a really, really bad, dangerous pope, doesn't mean anything bad should happen to your faith. You guys have work to do, working on restoring patriarchy in your homes. That was destroyed over the last century and a half. 99% of homes, even Father Chad Ripperger agrees with me, even in trad homes, it's 95% of them are not patriarchal. This book teaches you how. Really specific lessons. Case for Patriarchy, Ask Your Husband, our introductions, and then this book gets really specific, Leave and Cleave, and that's what the class is, the One Flesh Marital Workshop. Work on that. Don't worry so much about Pope Francis. I will cover the news. I can do so without getting blackpilled. At the beginning of this, everyone was like, yo, man, if you cover how bad Francis is, you're going to wind up Orthodox. No, I'm not. Pope Francis gets all his most liberal ideas from the Orthodox. Divorce and remarriage, contraception. Did you know the Orthodox have those things? I will not. To where else would I go? Nowhere. So I've really, all of those Pope-splainer critics of mine over the last 5 years have said, watch, Tim Gordon's going to get blackpilled and become a... No, not at all. The faith is the one true faith. It's Roman Catholicism. Having a really bad pope, or maybe the worst pope ever, I think, obviously, does nothing to change that. There has to be a worst. If you have 266, one of them has to be worst. I've stayed on message, and I've never strayed from message because I've focused kind of by sort of going along, figuring out what you guys need the most. Where can the most positive change be affected? And it's in restoring patriarchal order, which is why my book is called The Case for Patriarchy, and the new book on how to establish patriarchy is Leave and Cleave. God bless you all. Get in that class, enroll in these classes on timothyjgordon.com. It's an incredibly positive way to spend your fall. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon.